The vibration came before the sound, a cold tremor buzzing through every phone, every tablet, every screen glowing in the dark across America. At 2:17 a.m., people half-ass leap reached for their devices and read the same 3 words, written in stark white on black: "Don't move." Some laughed nervously, some cursed, some rolled over and ignored it. Then a man in Phoenix stepped out of bed to use the bathroom, and his wife watched him freeze mid-stride, eyes wide, mouth open, before his body collapsed as if gravity suddenly doubled. Across highways, cars screeched to a halt as drivers locked their legs in place, terrified to shift even an inch. News anchors tried to speak, but cameras caught one adjusting her chair and falling lifeless to the studio floor. Social media flooded with whispers typed by shaking fingers, everyone asking the same question: what happens if I move? Outside, streetlights flickered, and something tall and thin appeared at the edge of the light, standing perfectly still, as if it had always been there. The silence that followed was worse than any scream, because in that silence, America learned that motion itself had become deadly. Fear settled into people's muscles like cement, burning as minutes turned into hours, and the rule became horrifyingly clear: any movement meant death. Doctors watched patients die when they adjusted Roman 4 lines. Police officers collapsed when they reached for radios. In a hospital in Nevada, a surgeon blinked too hard, his body slumping over the operating table. Thermal cameras revealed the impossible cold outlines inches from living bodies, shapes that did not breathe, did not blink, did not cast shadows correctly. They stood behind people, beside them, sometimes directly in front of their faces, close enough to feel, yet untouchable. Survivors called them watchers because that was all they seemed to do. The government urged calm through text, only alerts, ordering citizens to remain absolutely still. Homes became prisons of burning muscles and silent prayers. Parents locked eyes with children, terrified a cough or twitch would end everything. Outside, the watchers multiplied, filling streets, parks, and rooftops, all facing the living. No one knew what they wanted, only that they reacted instantly to motion. America was no longer a nation of freedom, it was a nation holding its breath. Hope died quietly in a small house off Route 66, where a family stood frozen in their living room, trapped between terror and exhaustion. The father's legs shook violently, sweat dripping down his spine, while the mother counted seconds in her head to distract herself from the pain. Their youngest son whimpered, tears sliding down his cheeks as he stared at the thing standing behind the couch. It was taller than the doorway, its surface smooth like wet stone, its face blank except for a faint reflection of the child's fear. Hours passed, muscles screamed, joints locked, the air grew stale, the son tried to be brave, but his body betrayed him. A small sneeze escaped his nose, barely a movement at all. The watcher reacted instantly. There was no sound, no attack, just a sudden collapse as the child's body went limp, lifeless before it hit the floor. The parents remained standing, unable even to scream. Across the country, similar moments unfolded in silence, families losing loved ones without blood or struggle. It wasn't violence, it was enforcement. Whatever rule humanity had broken, the punishment was absolute, and mercy did not exist. The military responded with the confidence of a nation that had faced every enemy with firepower, but this enemy refused to fight. Drones hovered silently above cities, cameras streaming images of watchers standing among frozen civilians. Missiles were launched at empty deserts where clusters of the figures gathered, explosions lighting up the night sky. When the smoke cleared, the watchers were still there, unchanged, unmoved. Robots were sent in next, mechanical limbs stepping carefully through streets. But when a soldier shifted his stance to observe, he collapsed mid-breath. Panic spread through command centers as officers realized movement itself was the trigger. A classified report leaked online within hours, its words spreading faster than fear. They are not invading, they are enforcing. Scientists debated theories, quantum fields, ancient entities, planetary defense systems, but none explained why now. Satellites showed watchers standing at borders, coastlines, and city centers, evenly spaced, like a grid. America wasn't under attack, it was under judgment. The realization hit harder than any bomb. There was nothing to fight, nothing to shoot, nothing to run from. Survival depended on obedience, and obedience demanded stillness beyond human limits. Desperation breeds defiance, and defiance found a voice in a Texas preacher who stared into his phone camera. Sweat dripping from his brow as millions watched in silence. He spoke about fear, about faith, about refusing to live frozen like a statue. His voice shook, but his eyes burned with conviction as he said fear itself was the real enemy. Then he took one deliberate step forward. For a moment, nothing happened, and hope surged across the country like electricity. Then his skin began to slide downward, peeling away from muscle and bone as if gravity itself rejected him. His body remained standing, hollow and wrong, before collapsing in on itself. The live stream cut off instantly, but it was too late. The message was clear. Belief offered no protection. The alert refreshed on every screen, the same command appearing again as if mocking humanity's weakness. Don't move. People realized then that the watchers were not reacting emotionally. They didn't punish anger or reward faith. They responded only to motion, cold and precise. The rules were simple, and simplicity made them terrifying. Humanity was no longer negotiating with fate. It was trapped inside a system it did not understand. The truth emerged from deep beneath the earth, uncovered by frantic geologists communicating through blinking lights and text-only terminals. Seismic readings showed a massive, ancient cycle awakening under the North American plate, something older than civilization itself. Long before humans walked upright, the planet had rules, and one of them demanded stillness during this phase. Movement created disruption, and disruption triggered correction. The watchers were not alive in any human sense. They were manifestations of enforcement, extensions of the planet's own defense. History hinted at similar events, entire cultures vanishing without signs of war, ancient cities frozen in time. Humanity had simply forgotten. As this understanding spread, despair deepened. There was no villain to defeat, no intelligence to reason with. The earth itself had drawn a line. Outside, the watchers stood unmoving, their presence now horrifyingly logical. People learned to control breathing, to endure pain, to survive minute by minute. The planet did not care about comfort, fairness, or morality. It only cared about balance, and humanity, restless and loud, had finally disturbed something that refused to be ignored. Salvation came disguised as a flaw. Scientists noticed brief moments when seismic pressure eased, tiny windows when movement didn't trigger death. 40 seconds, once every 24 hours. No one knew why, but it was enough. Cities reorganized life around those seconds. Sirens marked the window, and people practiced moving efficiently, eating, bathing, stretching, speaking, all in frantic bursts before freezing again. Children were born during those windows, their first cries carefully timed. America transformed into a nation of statues between controlled explosions of life. Mental health collapsed as isolation deepened, but survival continued. People wrote messages on whiteboards, blinked in code, learned to live inside their own bodies without moving them. Outside, the watchers remained unchanged, unblinking, always watching. The fear never faded, only evolved. Every day was a countdown to 40 seconds of freedom, followed by 3 hours of endurance. Humanity adapted, not because it wanted to, but because extinction demanded obedience. Stillness became culture. Motion became privilege, and the world waited, unknowingly, for the rule to change again. The second alert arrived exactly 1 year later, and it was longer. Phones vibrated, screens glowing with words no one dared to misread. You may move, they may not. Confusion rippled through frozen cities as people cautiously shifted fingers, then arms, then legs. Nothing happened. For the first time in a year, bodies moved freely without death. Outside, the watchers began to tremble, hairline fractures spreading across their smooth forms like cracking ice. Panic replaced stillness as people ran, screamed, and cried openly. The watchers did not react. They could not. One by one, they collapsed into dust, leaving empty streets behind. Scientists theorized the cycle had ended, enforcement complete. Humanity had survived the judgment barely, but as the dust settled, a final message appeared on screens worldwide, quieter but heavier than before. Balance restored, remember. The fear did not disappear with the watchers. People moved again, but cautiously, aware that the planet was watching in its own way. America returned to motion, but never forgot the night when stillness meant life, and movement meant death.